My name is Lance Bell. In this audio commentary today, I'm going to look at the Twitter storm that President Obama did on January the 1st. Now, I'm going to go in chronological order and I'm going to talk about this. Now, if you follow his Twitter feed, here's how he started. He says, as we look ahead to the future, I wanted to take a moment to look back on the remarkable progress that you made possible in the past 8 years. Now, Mr. Obama, I'm going to call you out right there. What flippin' progress. Here's what I've seen in the last 8 years. We can talk about all the identity politics, the shaming. You know, people are getting shamed left and right. You know, the rise of fake media. Please tell me how this is progress. And in all honesty, especially with the identity politics, I saw this coming 5 years ago when you were running for re-election against Mitt Romney. Perfect example of this. I remember back then that people are outright saying, if you vote for Romney versus Obama, you're a racist. I remember that. That's awfully regressive. People didn't vote for you for a myriad of reasons. And there could have been on some of them? Absolutely. I'm not arguing that. But let's be real. That's not progress. And people are starting doing it more and more now because if you don't agree with them 100%, you're labeled racist, sexist, misogynistic. You name it, I've heard it. And I do this for a living as far as politics. So I got to see it all the time. Now moving on. Your very next tweet, you stated that facing the worst financial crisis in 80 years, you delivered the longest streak of job growth in our history. Okay, I agree with you with the first part. I really do. Because when you took office, jobs were a dumpster fire. But let's break this down, shall we? Now, you're basing this graph off a survey. This says here, in this particular image you see here, 156,000 private sector jobs were added in November. Now, I'm hoping that's a seasonally adjusted number because normally, and this is what I've always done, I always throw out the last 3 months of the year as far as jobs because a lot of that is seasonal. Notice the seasonal jobs, you know what they are. You'll pick them up part-time, could make a couple extra bucks for Christmas. You know what I'm talking about. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story. Right around the time he took office, I was still living in Phoenix at the time. Now I had a job, but let's be real, I was in the car business, and it sucked right around then. So as a gag, an In-N-Out was getting ready to open on the east side. So I figured, as said gag, I go over there to at least fill out the application. Did you know there was 2,500 people over there for 30 slots? And if you know anything about In-N-Out, they pay way above the national average when it comes to fast food workers, you know. They pay their people really good. So, which leads me to this. Yes, we had a lot of growth, but what kind of growth was it? You got to ask yourself this question because if everything's part-time 30 hours, does it matter? I know people right now that watch their income go down in the last 8 years. And I don't know if their income is ever going to go back up. I mean, those are just facts. And to avoid that fact, you're being totally disingenuous. And I know you know that, Mr. President. Now, moving on. He says that in the very next tweet after that, he says, after decades of rising healthcare costs, today nearly every American now has access to financial security of affordable healthcare. Yes and no. Now, somebody like me, for instance, who's always carried insurance, the Affordable Care Act or the ACA or Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, didn't affect me one iota. Now, did a lot of people get access to healthcare? Absolutely. But let's be real. There are insurers right now are getting out of the exchanges. I mean, you can just look it up. It's out there. I want to say Blue Cross Blue Shield was going to drop California, if I remember correctly. It was either Denver or Kentucky. Somebody please correct me in the comments below as far as that. But I do remember that specifically, and they were a big-time healthcare provider in that state. So there are companies jumping out of the exchanges. I'll give you an example here. SumaCare is the big healthcare provider here in Akron. They partnered up with one out of Cincinnati, and they directly said because of that reason. So it's highly, highly, highly debatable. Now, moving on. He says, we traded foreign oil for clean energy. We doubled the fuel efficiency standard. We acted on a global scale to have save the one planet we got. Okay, Mr. Obama, I'm calling total BS on that statement, because here's the deal. Fuel economy standards, or CAFE standards, is the actual legal term. You had to have that went back into place back in the 1970s. So you had no choice to get the fuel economy standards up. And with technology advancing, that happened. So your first part of that statement is total BS, because by law it had to be done long before you came into office. I'm talking 40 years ago. We acted on now on the foreign oil part, okay, that part is true, technically. Yes, we have less dependency on foreign oil. Now, not counting Canada. We are getting most of our oil from fracking from the Dakotas and West Texas. So yeah, we have less dependency on foreign oil, but at what cost? Honestly. Let's put this in some perspective, folks. That's where we're getting it from. So that particular tweet is totally and completely misleading. Now, he says, so finally, I skipped over one, but I'll have the link below in what he said. He says, it's been a privilege of my life to serve as your president. I look forward to staying with you as a citizen. Happy New Year, everybody. Now, he is going to have his final address on January the 10th. Now, why am I bringing all of this up? It's just one of those ones to where it's very pretentious, Mr. President. It really, really is. I don't know. I know you know. You're smart enough to know that what goes on out there in this country, you get told every day in the press briefings. And your internal press, not the press briefing, excuse me. Your internal briefings every day. Now, I want you to do something for me. I want you on your last address, have a sit-down Q&A when you go to Chicago, and just ask people. Hell, I saw an article this morning, they had 758 deaths last year. So, if you're a man of the street, like you always said you were, I'm calling you out to put your money where your mouth is. That's the only thing I ask. Well, folks, I'm going to get off here. I hope you enjoyed this. Enjoy your day. And always be careful and remember, fear the real.